Good morning. How are you doing, Cory?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone who's joining us. Just for any new people, I'm Ashley Crowder, the co-founder and CEO of VNTANA. We are a 3D asset management platform that makes it easy to manage and distribute 3D and digital twins for manufacturers. Been working in the space, really long time, just like Cory. So super excited to have him here today to talk about just all the amazing ways he's helped create different immersive learning experiences. So Cory is the founder of EducationXR, and he has collaborated and consulted for over 10 years with companies like GE, Thermo Fisher, Siemens, Medtronic, just tons of huge companies to help create incredible learning experiences. So Cory, thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so, just how did you get started and involved in all this, especially 10
Sure.
years ago? I mean, you're one of the old school people like me
Yeah.
who's been, in mixed reality before it was like metaverse and now spatial computing again. Who knows? But we've survived the hype cycles.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a good way to put it. Yep. So, dating back to my academic background, I did physiology and developmental biology at a school here in Utah called BYU, and I got in with an agency that was doing medical, was doing training and education development with medical device manufacturers, and it was awesome. I loved it. I kind of spoke the language enough because of my academic experience, and for a good 4.5 years, I worked in this agency capacity, and it was always building interactive experiences, right? I mean, we've been evolving from this watch and learn to this do and learn type you know transition. So for a while, right? So it started with HTML, and then different web interactivity and things like this, and then what was really popular with what we did with this agency was 3D animation, right? Being able to receive CAD files and create interactive simulations. And then we did WebGL. And so um, when commercial VR headsets, when the Vive came about, right, it was kind of an easy transition for us. One, because the medical device manufacturers, the medical community was a place we already knew really well, and they were very interested in this capability, and we were already working in that 3D space, and so it was a really nice, easy transition for us. And for us, the value was just that there was commercial VR hardware now, right? And that was really exciting. So that's kind of how we came about. I mean, we literally would take phone calls, and someone would say, "Hey, there's this HoloLens. Can you build something for it?" Like, sure, So that's kind of how we got into this. Um, and then you know we built a product because Cleveland Clinic approached us, and they approached another company actually, and they were interested in doing year one, year two medical school anatomy education. And this other company was a 3D model business, right? They created 3D human anatomy models, but they didn't have they worked with us to manage the opportunity and also to build the tech, right? They wanted VR, Cleveland Clinic, and we proposed to them doing a hardware agnostic solution. So something that would work on all phones, tablets, desktops, and VR headsets. And that was kind of the opportunity that springboarded the development of our tech, Education XR.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And going back a little bit, it sounds like a core thing too was you had 3D models, because I know that's a struggle for some companies when they're just getting started. But if you
Right.
have CAD files of your medical device products or manufacturing products, those can be leveraged. And then I know, typically with healthcare, it's DICOM images, which are completely different than real-time ready assets.
Mhm.
But that was probably huge that you had this 3D company that was already creating those files.
Yeah, and they were already the industry was already used to it, right? So these medical device manufacturers, everyone has engineering resources to design the products. So anywhere from MEs, mechanical engineers, to biomedical engineers, and they were already used to designing products, and all we would ask for were exported CAD files, right, in a format like a .stl, or something like this, right, or .fbx. Right? All they do is just save as, export the file, and give it to us, and we make it pretty. So they were already this behavior, and it was just easy because we needed the same type of files to start with to create real-time assets, right, that could be used in an XR environment.
Yeah, no, it's huge. And we talk to manufacturers all the time. It's like you've invested hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in these CAD files for your engineering team, for the SolidWorks, Siemens NX, whatever you're using. And for, a minimal additional investment, you can leverage them to train your whole organization, which at least I'm hearing a lot in the industry right now. There's this huge turnover of, baby boomers starting to retire, and they feel like that knowledge hasn't been passed down to these Gen X and millennials who just have everything on their phone. And how do we transfer this knowledge
Sure.
and do that? So I'd love to hear just maybe some of the case studies and experiences you've built for those that you can share, because I think people it's always helpful to hear kind of those real life projects.
So I'll even explain something that will complement what you just said about the change in generation, right? The expiring knowledge, right? Knowledge that's expiring and might be getting lost on the newer generation. So Vanguard, I'm going to move it to something like financial institute, like financial focus, right? That's kind of their expressed, that's been their expressed concern, maybe, that same thing is happening. You've got this wave of new generation coming in that's familiar with different resources to tell a story, right? And how do we preserve that knowledge that, a lot of these from the older gen, I'm trying to be sensitive here how I say this. We're not too far from that. But the older generation, right, as they exit. And so it's not uncommon across industries. It's not just something specific to heavy industry or something specific to medical. But knowledge retention is really important, and not just that, but knowledge acceleration. If anything, that's something I heard a long time ago when I was with this agency, accelerating the transfer of knowledge. And that's something that has stuck with me forever. And I love it because why? Because things are accelerating at an exponential rate, right? Everything's kind of is moving at this exponential pace. And so how do we keep up with that? Well, our thought, right, is to leverage technology to keep up or to keep pace with this this acceleration. And so for me, it's always made sense that, and it's been proven, it's not just medical, because that's where we came from. Medical, accelerate the technology in medical, because we have a shortage of nurses, healthcare professionals in general. But I think that is something that is consistent across industry. I think everybody's dealing with some form of shortage or turnover.
Oh yeah. I mean, so my first job out of college was at a BP oil refinery, actually. And refineries are so complex that, BP ended up selling the whole refinery to another company, but it would have been incredibly dangerous if a lot of people left at the same time.
Right.
Because refineries are so complex, it takes years to learn how it all works, how it all flows together, and every single refinery is completely different. And so that transfer of knowledge, we all had, they gave everyone bonuses to stay through this transition because it just would have been catastrophic.
Chaos, yeah,
Kind of
right.
like an extreme use case. But you're right that, studies have shown it. So PwC released a study a couple years ago saying that with VR, people learn 4 times faster, which is incredible, right? 4 times
Right.
faster. They're almost 300% more confident to apply the skills that they learn. And they're 4 times more focused than they're compared to the e-learning. So VR compared to just e-learning, which is massive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, with any of your clients, if you can share case study wise, like, what are your clients seeing? as results?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. So what our clients are seeing as a result is the lowest hanging fruit, if we could call it that, are the cost savings associated with adoption of extended reality solutions. Getting people access to training solutions on devices that they have and reaching them where they are versus the expense of bringing them to a site and all of the accommodations related with food or hotels or so one, you're competing with time, right? Time and money, and time is money, right? So do a little algebra there. But yeah, so those are the obvious ones. So a lot of our customers, especially capital equipment manufacturers, right? Anywhere from GE, Siemens, Philips, Medtronic, and others. There are others. It's a big deal to fly people around, and this has been. I'm trying to be general without being too specific to any one manufacturer, just out of
That
sensitivity.
NDAs, I know, but
Yeah, sure, yeah. And I hate it when people say that. It sounds so lame. But yeah, so it's just, but it's real. So yeah, huge cost savings, right? And then from a generational perspective, providing solutions using technology that the current generation is familiar with. It's not too far, right, from what this generation, the current generation, uses to be entertained, right, to use for training. And so that's been our experience with manufacturers is huge cost savings, right? To move around this big equipment for any of these equipment manufacturers like the GE, Siemens, Philips, Medtronic, that do heavy capital equipment, huge cost savings. Why? Because they have to drive around semi trucks, or they have to fly people, or they have to transfer or transport their equipment to an event location. And there are huge expenses tied to this. So it's easy cost savings to it's easy to prove cost savings when you can deliver a digital solution. Now, I will say, as a good scientist, that the challenge is adoption of digital solutions or the change of what people have been doing for so long. That's like the biggest thing, right? COVID kind of exposed this, or it forced everyone to get uncomfortable for a second, right? And then there was this huge like get back to doing what we were doing before, because why? Because that's what we were familiar with, versus let's think differently and try to leverage tech to save. So anyway, lots of rambled answers there, but that's 100% what our customers are seeing is it's cost savings. You don't need to bring people to the site to train them. Some sites are high radioactive exposure potential. There's high risk involved with
extremely dangerous. Yeah, I
mm-hmm.
mean, I would much rather train virtually on heavy equipment before throwing myself into the ring. I did one of those virtual crane trainings at the World of Asphalt a month ago, and I flipped it over multiple times. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, so one thing I can share is like Siemens Electric is a great company doing a lot of really great things to create a simulation that is safe and allows you to make mistakes without exposure to high voltage, right? Which could cause extreme harm to new students, people that are learning. You have to think about the risk associated with any sort of margin of error, right? It's probably pretty low. Lots of insurance risk or health risk associated with that. So huge cost benefits to be able to create a virtual simulation of something I can do that brings me no harm, and I can learn, but still learn about the harm, right? I can still see the flash and I can still feel the haptics and learn when I'm making a mistake without having to shock myself to an extreme, right?
Right. And we're also seeing, so that, this is all kind of on like training current employees, getting them up and running, but we see tons of value in the sales process too. So just being able
100%.
to explain complex products quickly to prospects, and then, their procurement team who might not be in the weeds of this. And then we're even seeing some really innovative companies think about, okay, well, how do we then leverage this for a maintenance package plan for that piece of equipment? And how do we make this a revenue driver for the company on top of, all the cost savings and sped up learning?
Yeah, you touched on very important things. And I kept following to the last one. So, right, you can, so the cool thing about digital and this evolution that we've seen, right, even from the day of, I like to borrow from one of my books is called Creativity Inc. Ed Catmull, we got to meet him. He's one of the Pixar people, right? So he was part of that evolution that we moved from hand drawings to digital, right? And even from that animation, that type of animation, we've been able to see the same benefits leveraging 3D assets to create digital experiences, allow us to use that content across division within a business organization, within a BU, right? So yeah, you can use that same digital content, and I guess I reference all this to show the cost savings. You can more easily manipulate these 3D digital assets that are used for training and education, can be used for sales, right? Or sorry, for you've got customer training and education, you have sales rep training, and the sales reps not only for training, but they use that material from a marketing perspective to promote their content. And then yes, with these digital assets, you 100% leverage, a good platform solution to generate revenue, which is a really big deal to a lot of companies that see the transition and adoption of digital experiences as an expense. Oh, I can make revenue from this as well? Yes, right. And it ultimately comes out to be low cost. So
Awesome. So how, what's your advice for companies looking to just kind of get started in this? What are some first steps and best practices?
What comes to mind, I didn't prepare any of this, but what
Yeah.
comes to mind as you ask that question is some advice that was given to me a while ago was get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And before this, I was gonna read Christensen. I was gonna read, the whole idea of disruption. And I think I want to say there's a little bit of disruption with what's going on right now with the adoption of extended reality solutions. We're not comfortable with it, right? Which kind of follows the trend of novel technology over the years, right? There's some level of skepticism or discomfort with exploring or adopting these solutions. So one thing I would say that's probably a good sign, and two is I would really invest in understanding this as well as possible. Some, in my experience, my observation, even most recently with the DoD, is there's a lot of, it's an open technology or a capability to be able to create solutions in using real time 3D gaming engines, right? Anyone can do it. So everyone's got an opinion, but what that translates to is, misinformation all over the place, right? And understanding what a good solution is. And so I would really encourage having good conversations with companies just to understand things really well, right? The most recent thing I saw was someone saying that they were comparing a 3D gaming engine with another company as if they were one-to-one the same thing, and they're not the same thing. In fact, this company was leveraging a 3D gaming engine, and someone was asking to compare it to the 3D gaming. It made no sense, and it was frustrating because I thought, man, we're missing opportunities to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just got asked the question, are you guys the same as Adobe Substance? It's like, no.
Sure.
Adobe Substance is about creating materials and textures and creating that beautiful 3D asset. We are a publishing platform, so being able to optimize,
Right.
convert that asset, and then publish it everywhere you need to go, including EducationXR experiences or just straight up on your website, digital showrooms. But I think, look, it's new and there's going to be confusion. And so, my advice, for getting started, number one is we talked a lot about like the power of leveraging this content across your organization. And if your organization is really large, that can be really difficult. And so it's connecting your sales, marketing, and training teams with engineering. So evaluate what 3D assets do you have. Engineering team's going to have that. What are they designing in? then, what is the sales, marketing, and training team asking for? And then how can you leverage those across the organization instead of reinventing the wheel? So, training is building their own thing and sales and marketing is building their own thing, and no one's using the CAD files that you already have, which we have, in the past seen.
Right.
So,
Everything you're speaking to is like invest in really good discovery calls, like have or conversations, right? Have a good meeting with people at the table, or have good discussions, research, and bring information to the table and talk about it with as many people as possible, right? Yeah, there's huge opportunities to save money, to generate revenue, to leverage existing assets. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and to dismiss the potential just because it's not familiar, or we always associate, oh, it's probably a gaming thing, probably nerdy or whatever. Okay, there are ways to look past this, right, and leverage this capability to do all those things we just talked about.
yeah, for sure. And for those, super new to the space, when we talk about WebGL, we can have interactive 3D and augmented reality on the web. WebXR is possible too. You're going to want, if you're wanting a more interactive experience, you're probably going to want to build it within a game engine because you're going to have a lot more capabilities there.
Right.
But that's kind of like high level. Some stuff we're talking about. And yeah, so where do you see kind of the future of immersive education? Where do you see this going in the next couple years or 10?
It all goes up. Like, I think everything just gets better over time, and it's not without challenges, just like we're talking about, right? These aren't new things. Every enterprise organization is trying to figure something out, right? Every enterprise is outfitted with some unique technology, with unique individuals, right? Very intelligent people, and but there are differences, and so that what that means is that everyone figures something out at their own pace, on their own time. Um, it is yeah, it is a solution that is here to stay. I think it will just continue to grow, right? And it continues to be evaluated and reevaluated time over time. But as the tech improves, the ability to process real-time experiences using viewers like VR headsets and phones and augmented reality experiences, it just continues to get better, right? It's a bigger, it has it's a very different technology than what we are most all familiar with when we think about phones, right? We think about phones, and we try to apply what this is relative to phones because that was the most recent experience we had with new emerging technology. But this is different, right? It's a software that's open and available to do many things with, and there are lots of really great rewards to be realized. And I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the trends most excited about this year is honestly the Apple Vision Pro. It just like brought it to the forefront of a lot of organizations. I know so many C-suite people who just went out and bought one and were blown away. It finally kind of brought things more to the masses. And I was, obviously Apple always waits and then does something totally vertically integrated.
They
So
leapfrog, yeah, they leapfrog. It gets big.
yeah, and the quality of the content is amazing, and I was most impressed and excited that like our 3D AR web viewer that works on your Apple phone works out of the box with the Apple Vision Pro, and
Yeah.
blew people's minds, which was
Right.
great. But I also just saw a study Andreessen Horowitz put out that it was comparing the purchases of the Oculus or Meta Quest now with the trend of iPhone purchases over time and the like adoption of mobile apps and technology. And it follows the same curve of iPhone sales. So now we're at, over 1 million Quests. And so we're kind of at this tipping point if you believe it'll continue with the iPhone sale trend. So yeah, curious just from, the headset perspective, I know you said you started with the Vive, which is one of like the first and it greatest
commercial.
content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, what if you were to give people advice on what headsets to get for their business? Like, what do you generally work with?
Yeah. So one, yeah, Vision Pro is beautiful. It's crystal. Like the experience when we first saw that was amazing. Um, and at some point, just like any good product, it's going to evolve. It's going to get cheaper. Just everyone relax. It's going to be something better and easier to adopt later. But right now, the technology we like the most, and again, it depends on the situation, but we like that the Quest 3's beautiful device. We really like the pass-through capability. We like the hand tracking. So right now, if anyone came to me and said, "Hey, what would you recommend?" I'd say, "Oh, a Quest 3." Obviously, it's got really great features, and they've done a really fantastic job investing in a product that delivers on practical solutions, right, really well, and I like that. And things will continue to evolve and improve. But so far, with what it is right now, it's awesome, and I'm really excited to see what the next generation of headset and these different capabilities will be that they deliver on.
Yeah, I mean, for the price point, right? You can't beat it. Like $600. It depends on how much
It's great.
memory you get. Amazing. We've done a lot of work with the Magic Leap headset too, which is also
Mm-hmm.
really, really great. It's more expensive than the Quest, but each have their own. I think Magic Leap pass through is probably the best, but then Quest has way better hand tracking and placement
Mm-hmm.
tracking. And then again, the price tag, makes it.
All things, yeah, they're just kind of, yeah, from an economic perspective, right? They're all trending up in a great way.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, kind of, I guess my last question, because we're wrapping up here, how can organizations stay updated and informed on the latest trends? You said, doing that research is so important before you start comparing companies. Like what are some great resources for people?
Yeah, great resources. I mean, one, I would reiterate that it continues to evolve, right? The tech continues to evolve, and so I really encourage a good understanding of of what the hardware capabilities are, the software capabilities are. As far as good resources, you know, I don't want to say just find a good influencer, but there are good resources there.
Podcast.
'Cause yeah, if there are good resources, I'm trying. Social media is kind of what has been adopted as good uh, avenues of information and so on and so forth, right? So there's it's good information there. I don't know what else. Being connected to really really well versed individuals that have good sound understanding of tech and the pace that things are going, I think are really critical, and getting connected with some of those individuals. And then, finding good resources from these different companies, right? These different hardware companies. There are different events, that you can attend. AWE is a good one. That's coming up.
AWE is my favorite, and it's coming up
Yeah,
in June. So
in June. Yep, it'll be in Long Beach this year, so that's a good event. And then our favorite is AES, Augmented Enterprise Summit, which is in Dallas this year, and it's around the October-November timeline. That's a good one. You get a lot of really really good reputable enterprise organizations that attend that event. So between those, events are good to attend to kind of get an idea of what tech is out there and have good conversations.
yeah, no, I think those are all great. One other I'd throw out, the Kronos Group is a really
Mhm.
great group to follow. They're
Yeah.
nonprofit. We're a part of setting standards for WebGL, the GLB file format for the web, as well as WebXR and some other platforms. So they're a conglomeration of tons of different companies that are all trying to push standards. So very unbiased, I would say, group. And the latest you mentioned Pixar, USD, Open USD is now a thing, which is also very exciting. But I think it's led to a little bit of confusion in the marketplace, just because we need to get standards more fleshed out there, and how does that translate into the GLB standard, because you're going to need both. But both groups are great kind of conglomerates of, non-biased bunch of different companies together to follow.
I think this is where it really requires a lot of good sound. It's where all the good science classes you took back in the day are so critical, right? Good sound understanding from multiple resources, right? And thinking about things from multiple perspectives is a huge advantage right now as you think about how to adopt this technology. Understanding tech it's really critical. So any time that can be spent invested in understanding things is super key right now.
For sure. Well, Cory, thanks so much for joining us. This was great. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat. We got a much love, Cory. Preach the goodness of XR. So
nice.
Awesome.
Thanks, Aaron.
Great. Well, you can always follow Cory on LinkedIn if you got more questions. But awesome. Really great talking with you.
Hey, much appreciated. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ashley.
Bye.